Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Oh my goodness, I haven't done a sit down video in forever. So here we go. We're gonna get back into sit down videos, especially now that it's the cold weather and I'm probably not gonna be out and about like the way I have been on my previous vlogs. Now we can sit down, have some girl talk, you know. So this is a very interesting video. It's a very exciting video for me because I've always wanted, not always, I've been thinking about doing this for a while, but I decided to just finally actually do it. So I don't know, actually, for those of you who follow me on YouTube, my YouTube subscribers, do you guys even read my blog? Do you even know that I have a blog which I'm quite active on? So for those of you who don't know, I am a writer. I think that's the first thing I do. Like, I'm a writer by profession, and that's my first creative love. It was the first way I was able to express myself creatively. I've been writing like all my life. But I started my blog in university when I was in first year. That time it was just a fashion blog. It was mostly fashion and like a bit of travel. Yeah, but now I write about anything and everything. I also talk a lot about sex and relationships on my blog. So yeah, and I just love writing. I think I express myself really well through writing. I know I'm an amazing writer, but do I say, please just go and, you know, the evidence will show for itself. But what's really exciting about this video is that I'm going to be reading out one of my articles. I got a suggestion from someone who was like I should try and bring some of the content that I write about onto YouTube, and I was like, I prefer writing because I think I express myself better. But I thought, why can't I just come here and read for you some of my articles, and then we can, you know, have a discussion in the comments. So guys, that's what we're gonna be doing. I was really debating actually on which article I should read because I think I have quite a number of good ones. I think I'm still debating. Okay, no, I think okay. Okay, fine. No, I do know that I'm gonna do it. Okay, so for today's YouTube video, we are basically going to be tackling the story. So I have a number of series currently going on my blog. So I'm going to be reading the first part out of one of my series. So one of the series that I have currently on my blog is one that is titled, "Is Dating White Men Sustainable?" Is it really sustainable? For those of you who have dated white men, please leave your comments in the comment section below and we discuss. Tuchambwe, we know. Let us roast these white men or give them their flowers if they deserve them, you know. So yeah, for today's YouTube video, I'm basically going to be sharing some of my experiences dating white men. Actually, my first experience dating a white man, obviously this happened in Cape Town. Cape Town is where you can find like just so many white men. If that's what you're looking for. If that's what you're looking for and you're based in Africa, go to Cape Town. So yeah, let me just pull up the article and then I'm gonna read it and then now we can discuss it. We're gonna discuss it in the comments or in the next video. So this is basically just gonna be me reading. Okay, so this is how my blog looks for those of you who have never been to my blog. Yeah, and the topic is called "The Grand Proposal: Is Dating White Men Sustainable?" Part 1. Having lived most of my adult life in Cape Town, I've had my fair share of experience when it comes to dating white men. Most people joke about Cape Town being the Europe of Africa. One of the reasons for this nickname is because of the large population of white people in the city. I was a bit alarmed when I first got to Cape Town back in 2013. We would visit restaurants and other cute spaces with my family and be the only black people there. That was very strange to me as I had grown up around so many black African people. I also went to an 844 system school in Nairobi, which barely had any white students. When I joined the University of Cape Town in 2014, I remember being the only black resident among my housemates in 2 different student digs that I lived in. This really opened up my mind and shaped my thinking when it comes to issues around race and inequality. However, that's a whole other story for another day. For today, we're going to be delving deep into some of my experiences dating white men. I casually dated several white men and got into 2 exclusive relationships with 2 Wazungus during my time in Cape Town. I met my first white ex-boyfriend in spring of 2018. For the sake of privacy, we are going to call him Marcel. His real name is also French, so Marcel just seems very fitting. It was my final year in university and my first year in business. I met Marcel at my first ever fashion show. I had been invited by an NGO to showcase my designs on a runway for the first time ever, and I was over the moon. After my show, I could finally relax and enjoy the rest of the event. I helped myself to a glass of wine and sat down with my friend Rati, who is a Cape Town-based influencer that had modeled my closing piece for me. After a few minutes, Marcel approached us to say hi and asked to talk to me. I stood up to greet him and noticed how incredibly tall he was. He started by congratulating me for my show. Apparently, he had arrived just after my show when the next designer was going on stage. After inquiring about me from other people at the event, he found out that I was one of the showcasing designers. He then gathered up his courage and came to talk to me. Marcel complimented me about my outfit and silver hairdo. I remember thinking how intense and beautiful his eyes were. He asked what I was doing after the event and whether I'd like to go out with him and a couple of his friends. I responded saying that I had to go home fast to drop off my designs from the event, but would be heading out to town with a couple of my friends later. I was super exhausted after my show as I had stayed up all night sewing Rati's outfit, but my male friends insisted that they take me out that night. We exchanged numbers and he promised to call later. We hit the streets later that night with my boys and we hit the streets later that night with my boys, and I ended up tapping out quite early. By 1 a.m., I was in my bed. When I woke up, I found missed calls and messages from Marcel. He had tried calling me late in the night and was requesting to take me out on a date that day. It was a beautiful sunny Sunday in the mother city. Marcel drove up to my house in his vintage bright red Mercedes to pick me up. We were heading to Groot Constantia, which is one of the oldest and most famous wine farms in the Cape. Like me, Marcel was a lover of wine, having grown up and lived in Constantia for most of his life. When we got there, we opted to have a chocolate and wine pairing while seated on the green grassy lawns overlooking the vineyards and enjoying the sun. That afternoon definitely has to be one of my best moments to date. We talked about anything and everything. Marcel was a white South African male and was half British, half Afrikaans. He had lived his whole life in the Cape and was 29 years old at the time. I was 23. He was also a musician who specialized in playing the French horn. As the conversation evolved, I could feel him getting more and more entranced by me. I also had mad butterflies in my tummy. After we were done with our chocolate and wine tasting, the sunset started creeping in and Marcel insisted on taking me out to dinner. We drove up to La Parada Constantia, which used to kick on a Sunday evening. I don't know if it still does. The views from there are breathtaking, and there was even a live band performing. I vividly remember bumping into Lindy Lynn, who is another Cape Town-based influencer, before things got even more hot and spicy. I don't remember what we were talking about that led up to this, but right in the middle of our dinner, Marcel got up and got on his knees. I was so shocked and taken aback and also a bit tipsy that I couldn't really process everything that was going on. Everyone at the restaurant stopped to stare as it looked like Marcel was about to propose. Marcel then went on and took my hand, looked deep into my eyes, and asked whether I could be his girlfriend. I know. It sounds like something out of a fairy tale, but I lived it. I remember saying yes because I wanted to stop attracting so much attention and also didn't want to embarrass Marcel on our first date in front of all of these people. Marcel was always big on grand gestures, which is typical for a lot of musicians. Later on, when I thought about it, I felt like he trapped me with that proposal into entering that relationship. I was not ready for it at that point in my life. That night, we went back to his place and had sex. He lived with his parents on their beautiful Constantia property, where his room was built a bit far away from the main house. The sex was very disappointing and lackluster for the both of us, but I remember we both blamed it on the excess wine we had consumed that day and went to bed. I woke up feeling so confused, wondering how my weekend had escalated to me acquiring a boyfriend. To be honest, guys, I don't know what it is, but so many men have asked me to be their girlfriend on the first or during the first few encounters of us chilling together. I always used to wonder why. Now that I'm a bit more grown, I realize that a lot of these men were in love with the idea of me and not in love with me myself. Also, patriarchy and that feeling of wanting me for themselves is what drove a lot of these men to asking me to be their girlfriends. They all wanted to own and control me and were not interested in getting to know and love the real me. Marcel also worked for the South African Navy as part of the Navy band. The morning after, he left very early to head out to work, dressed in his sexy Navy uniform. I remember awkwardly meeting his dad in the kitchen that day before Marcel got back from work. Cringe. If it was a black African parent, that whole encounter would have definitely flagged me as red. The next few times we had sex were significantly better than the first. He seemed to thoroughly enjoy himself a lot of the time, while I mostly just lay there faking it, too afraid to express what I really wanted in bed. Don't get me wrong, I also really liked Marcel. He was good looking, interesting, we had loads of fun together, and he treated me like a real life queen. Marcel was at a point in his life where he was looking for a serious, stable girlfriend, which I just couldn't offer him. I was in my final year of university and had my whole life ahead of me. There was a lot of uncertainty about whether I'd be returning to Cape Town the following year. I was also at a point in my life where I was partying a lot, going for many media events, and just basically wilding. He didn't like the nature of my work because I was always out at some function or the other, networking and having loads of fun. I was also still in university, which meant that my finances were very shaky. Marcel would always talk about the future which he envisioned me in. I soon met both of his parents at a formal dinner at their house. I called up my mom the next day to tell her the news. I remember thinking how different this experience was to the black men I had dated in the past, who would never be that quick to introduce you to their folks. Marcel even proposed to marry me so that I could get a South African spousal visa and stay in the country. I rejected his proposal as I didn't want to be tied down to a man so early in my life. I think this rejection definitely affected him more than I thought it would. He started seeing me as unserious and was unsure about my feelings for him. This whole relationship lasted about 2 months, after which Marcel ended things with me. He said that he was looking for more stability in a partner and he couldn't fathom being in a long-distance relationship with me if I didn't come back to the Cape the next year. Despite feeling quite sad that it had ended, I understood where he was coming from. My close girlfriends also assured me that he wasn't the right guy for me, which helped to make the heartbreak bearable. I ended up going back to Cape Town the next year and reached out to him, hoping to rekindle what we once had. After some time, I realized that our love ship had sailed and finally started to move on from Marcel. I worked hard that year to get my finances in order and managed to create for myself the somewhat stable life that Marcel wanted me to have. When this happened, I met yet another white man. To be continued. So yeah, that is the article, guys. Please leave any comments in the comment section. If you guys want to check out the real article on my website, I will leave a link in the description box. If you guys want to check out part 2 is also on my website. But for those of you who don't really like reading, just wait for me to, I don't know, have another video where I read for you the part 2. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I think I'm gonna do a few more sit-down videos where I'm just reading out my articles to you, because I actually really enjoy reading my writing, if that makes sense. I really enjoy reading my writing. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I guess I'll see you in my next video. Bye.